Boas Festas de São Francisco Xavier. This is Fraser Andrade from O Heraldo, and here before you to bring to your kind attention that O Heraldo is here with some interesting stuff related to our beloved going to Saib. So we'll be speaking on a couple of aspects of the saint, that is the life of Saint Francis Xavier, various places that you must visit in Old Goa when you are out there for the exposition. Another interesting thing we'll be speaking about is the staff, the wooden staff that one may see in the glass urn in which the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier have been placed. Also, we have not forgotten aspects such as the medical tests that were performed on the saint right from initial periods unto modern times. We are also speaking about controversies associated with the genuineness of the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier. Then, we've also taken views from young people, like for example, there will be a youth who will speak about his beliefs about and his thoughts about Saint Francis Xavier. Relics of Saint Francis Xavier that are seen outside the basilica, as many of us are only aware of relics that we all go to venerate, that are present in the basilica and now at the Say Cathedral. But however, we all know that the body was with the Jesuits for some time and then came under the Archdiocese after their expulsion in 1759. Post that, you have relics distributed, and even during the period under which it was under the Jesuits, the relics were distributed to different parts. So today we have relics not only in the basilica but also in different other churches and even in houses. So we'll be speaking about that, where we speak about relics in private custody. And lastly, we will be also speaking about a priest's reflection on Saint Francis Xavier. Francis Xavier was born during the Holy Week, specifically on Tuesday, 7th April 1506, at the castle of Xavier in the Kingdom of Navarre, Spain. His parents were Dr. João Xavier and Dona Maria. At the age of 18 in 1525, Francis left his family home to pursue studies at the prestigious University of Paris in France. By 1529, while the college at Barbara, he shared the room with Pedro Fabro and Ignatius of Loyola, who would later influence him profoundly with the words of Christ. These words were, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world if he loses his own soul?" It was only in 1534 that a transformed Francis joined Ignatius along with several friends. On April 7, 1541, he set sail for India alongside Governor Martin Fons, after having been appointed by the Pope as his nuncio of the distant East. After an arduous 8-month journey, Francis arrived Goa in 1542. Despite invitations from both the governor and the bishop, he chose to reside at the Royal Hospital, dedicating his time to caring for the sick and teaching Christian doctrine. Although he was asked to take on the role as the rector of the newly established College of St. Paul for the training of local priests, he declined this offer, preferring to focus on missionary works, and soon departed for Cochin. In February 1552, Francis returned to Goa with 2 Japanese companions. By April, he was on his way to China, accompanied by 4 others, including his Chinese friend Antonio de Santa Fe. During his journey, he visited missions in Cochin and Malacca, and they traveled from Singapore to Sunshine Island while he was on his way to China. In November, his friends urged him to reconsider his trip to China and rather asked him to cancel his trip there, but he was resolute about his decision. Sadly, in December, Francis fell ill with a fever which increased day by day, and on the morning of 3rd December, he passes away peacefully. Old Goa, once the capital of Portuguese India, is a treasure trove of history, culture and architecture. Boasting of its rich Indo-Portuguese sacred art, it's home to stunning churches, colonial-era buildings and a serene atmosphere that contrasts with the more tourist-heavy parts of Goa. Here are some must-visit places in Old Goa when you are come there for the exposition of Saint Francis Xavier. Number 1. The Basilica of Bom Jesus. The Grand Church of Bom Jesus, commissioned and constructed on November 24, 1594, was founded by the donations from Don Jeronimo Mascarenhas. It was consecrated by Archbishop Friar Aleixo de Menezes on May 15, 1605. Number 2. The Old Archiepiscopal Palace. Situated between the Sé Cathedral and the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, the Palace of the Archbishops stands as a two-story structure. The palace is notable for its simple and austere architectural lines, representing the sole surviving example of civil architecture from Goa's golden age. Construction of the palace commenced in the early 16th century, concurrently with the Sé Cathedral, to which it is directly connected. The Sé Cathedral. Situated midway on Rua Direita, the Sé Cathedral is a remarkable structure. The construction of this magnificent building commenced in 1562. However, by 1608, after 50 years, it still remained unfinished. At the entrance, one can find a sizable baptismal font that was part of the earlier version of the Sé Cathedral. According to tradition, it is believed that Saint Francis Xavier may have performed numerous baptisms at this very font. The Church of Saint Francis of Assisi. The construction of the church began at the same time as that of the adjacent monastery and was completed in 1521 and was dedicated to the Holy Spirit. Due to lack of maintenance, this church began to decay and therefore was demolished in 1661 and re-erected by voluntary contributions from local Catholics. Although the church was rebuilt, the old doorway through which Saint Francis Xavier and many personages entered was retained. The Chapel of Saint Catherine. A steep and narrow road in front of the Church of Assisi leads to the Chapel of Saint Catherine. It was this very road that witnessed the hard-fought battle between the Portuguese and Adil Shah, and where the city was captured by Alphonse de Albuquerque. The chapel was erected immediately after the conquest of Goa in 1510 in honor of Saint Catherine, but the current structure that you see is, however, the third edition of the original. The Viceroy's Arch. The arch was constructed to commemorate the maritime feat of Vasco da Gama by his very own grandson Francisco da Gama, who was a controversial viceroy in Goa. The gate was rebuilt, however, in 1952 to 1954, around this period in the early half of the 20th century. The Gate of Our Lady of Conception. The Arch of Our Lady of Conception is an example of modifications made to the walls of surrounding city in Old Goa. Its location is at the site of the previous Mandovi, that is the customs gate. In those days, during the Inquisition in Goa, it became customary for the condemned to pray before the image of Our Lady placed in a niche over the gate's archway. The Church of Our Lady of Divine Providence, also commonly referred to as St. Cajetan. The monastery, along with the church, was built in 1610 by Italian Theatine friars. It is said to have been built after the style of the Basilica of St. Peter in Rome. The church has two quadrangular turrets instead of towers. The facade bears 4 niches with statues of apostles Peter, Paul, Matthew and John. The Church of St. John of God, housing the exhibition titled Footprints of Hope. The Church of St. John of God was erected in honor of Our Lady of Good Success and was built by the members of Lay Order of St. John of God who arrived in Goa in 1685. The church will house the Footprints of Hope, which is an exhibition reflecting Goa's rich cultural heritage, featuring works of 62 artists from diverse faith backgrounds, each presenting pieces that embody the enduring legacy of Saint Francis Xavier, a revered figure in Goa. The Church of Our Lady of Grace, commonly referred to as the Augustine's Tower. The church we see today is the relic of the famous Church of Our Lady of Grace. The foundation stone for this building was laid on September 9, 1597. The bell of this very church is today housed in the Church of Our Lady of Immaculate Conception in Penjim as part of its facade. The Church of Santa Monica and the Museum of Christian Art, housing the exhibition titled Sacred Archives, Memories and Objects from the 21st of December until the 9th of January 2025. The foundation stone for this convent was laid on July 2nd, 1606 and completed in 1627. The convent adjoining the church was not only for the nuns who were called the Daughters of Santa Monica, but also for widows who wanted to dedicate themselves to the service of God. The chapel will be housing an exhibition of artifacts from Goa related to St. Francis Xavier. The exhibition is part of Special Projects section of Serendipity Arts Festival and an additional collaboration with the Museum of Christian Art. This is a must-visit exhibition. Church of Our Lady of the Rosary. Alfonso de Albuquerque is said to have vowed to build a hermitage dedicated to Our Lady of Rosary if he won the battle over the Muslims. The church was erected in 1543 by the Dominicans and served as the parish church of Velha Goa, that is Old Goa. This is the oldest church in Goa. Chapel of St. Anthony. The Chapel of St. Anthony was built around the same time as that of the Church of Our Lady of Rosary. It had direct patronage from the Portuguese king and hence referred to as the Royal Chapel of St. Anthony. It is well known for its typical serene blue and white interiors. The Archaeological Museum situated within the convent of St. Francis of Assisi. Situated at the rear of the convent and the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, this museum houses a significant and an exquisite array of artifacts from the Portuguese era in India. Its collection is organized into 8 galleries with the portraits of the former viceroys and the governors of Goa being regarded as the most noteworthy. Additionally, the museum boasts of an impressive assortment of stamps, religious items and various other treasures. The ruins of the College of St. Paul. The College of St. Paul was founded by Diogo Barbosa and Miguel Vaz. The foundation was laid on 10th November 1541 and completed only at the end of 1542. In 1545, St. Francis Xavier resided here and took charge of the college after the death of Father Borba. All that remains from the college that existed in those days is the doorway of this college that is visible there. The pulpit of this church had been gifted to the Church of the Holy Spirit situated in Margaon, which is still today visible in the church in Margaon. The Chapel of St. Francis Xavier. This chapel was within the compound of the College of St. Paul. There were 2 chapels here. One was dedicated to St. Anthony and the other to St. Jerome. This would have been one of these 2. Which is the one is exactly not clear. It could be either St. Anthony or St. Jerome. It is believed that St. Francis Xavier had planted a jackfruit sapling next to the chapel, whose bark has healed many. The chapel was repaired before the 1859 exposition of St. Francis Xavier. The Chapel of Our Lady of the Mount. The chapel was built by Alfonso de Albuquerque after his victory over Adil Shah in 1510. It may have been originally between 1510 and 1519. The chapel was subsequently rebuilt on 2 occasions. It was renovated, however, in 2001 and today thus stands in its pristine glory. The convent and the Church of the Cross of Miracles. Tradition attributes the origin to this church to a miracle which occurred in 1619. The church came down in 1659 and was rebuilt in 1671. It was later handed to the congregation of the Oratory of St. Philip Neri, whom the Goan saint Reverend Jose Vaz joined in 1685. In 1782, a public exposition was held with the aim of scuttling the rumor that the body of Saint Francis Xavier had been carried by the Jesuits to Portugal and the body of the deceased Goan canon Antonio Gomes had been placed in the coffin instead of the body of Saint Francis Xavier. But this was not true at all, as the subsequent medical tests that have been performed have demonstrated clearly. On this occasion, the coffin was opened in the presence of several eminent personalities. However, there were no physicians at this point, and minutes were written down. It said in the minutes that there was hair on the head, that the face has all the features but was eaten up and covered with skin except on the right side where there was a small bruise. He has both ears and all the visible teeth except for one. He has the left arm, but the right arm was missing. Hair was also present in some places is what was reported. He has no right arm, as I have said earlier, but when the bishop and the governor touched the body underneath the vestments, it was noted that there were no intestines. The skin of the thighs was desiccated kind of, and the feet were covered with skin in which the veins could be seen. The toes with the nails and only the last toe of the right foot were missing. Yet another controversy about Saint Francis Xavier's body is that the sacred body of Saint Francis Xavier was lost at the sea during his transit to Goa and was replaced by the then Portuguese authorities with the body of Tathagmuni Sri Raula Terra, who was a Buddhist monk and an eminent scholar who lived in the 15th century in Sri Lanka. Now, Francis died on the island of Sunshine while awaiting for his entry into China. Although Francis worked on the islands close by to Ceylon, there is no evidence that he entered Sri Lanka and definitely did not die in Sri Lanka. Moreover, the body cannot be that of an old monk who died at the age of 83 in 1491, as the Portuguese came in India only in 1498 and thereafter entered Sri Lanka in 1505. And Francis died in 1552, whose body was welcomed into Goa only in 1554 by those who knew him very well when he was living. Also, through the various examinations of the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier, there is nothing that ever suggests that the body is of Asian and not of European origin. Speaking of the staff that is seen in the coffin of Saint Francis Xavier, or rather the urn that consists of the sacred relics of the saint. The improbable victory of the Portuguese troops against the Marathas in 1683 was attributed to the intercession of Saint Francis Xavier. The governor Dom Francisco de Tavora apparently placed his staff at the side of the saint, praying for his aid in defending Goa. This incident gave rise to the custom that each departing viceroy or governor of Goa had to deposit his ruling baton in the saint's tomb before the new viceroy or the governor could receive it. From the end of the 18th century until Manuel Antonio Vassalo e Silva became the last Portuguese governor in 1958, the baton was not placed in the tomb, but rather in the hands of a 4-foot silver statue of Saint Francis Xavier, which was placed on the altar dedicated to him. The statue was a gift of a pious Italian lady who requested the statue to be placed as a token of the pilgrim's love for the saint. The exquisite silver statue had a staff in each of his hands. One was a pilgrim staff that is generally seen in the representations of Saint Francis Xavier, and the other was an Indian cane. It was this Indian cane which was associated with the state's viceroys and the governors who, while they were swearing, they would come and place their staff with the statue and then take it off. It was handed over to the new governors. So this was a practice that continued until the liberation of Goa in 1961. Speaking about the medical tests and examinations carried out on the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier, The body of Francis was taken to the Church of St. Paul on March 16, 1554 at the sound of bells of nearly 40 churches from Old Goa at that point of time. Before the body could be exposed to the public, the Viceroy Don Afonso de Noronha requested his physician Dr. Cosme de Saraiva and the Vicar General and Administrator of the Bishopric of Goa, Dr. Ambrosio Ribeiro, to examine the body and attest its incorruption. Dr. Saraiva issued a certificate in which he says that he saw and touched all the parts of the body of Padre Mestre Francisco Xavier, especially the abdomen, and he could feel the intestines. The body was not embalmed, is what he said, and nor was it preserved artificially, he added. The thighs and other parts of the body were fleshy, and either physics nor medicine could preserve it in such a good way, since he had died 1.5 years ago and was buried for nearly 1 year, he certified under an oath of his office. On the left side of the abdomen, there was a small hole, he mentions. Dr. Saraiva says that watery blood came out, and Vicar General Ambrosio reported that when he inserted his fingers, he could actually feel something that looked like intestines. When the coffin was opened in 1744, no medical exam was conducted then. But in a report sent by the provisional Andre Pereira to Father Carbon, it is written that clearly that he was consoled because the body was in such good condition. He writes that they have verified with their own eyes the continuation of the miracle after examining the head, the face, the chest and the legs that were still covered with hair. At no stage there is evidence that there was any form of rotten smell emanating from this body. In 1859, the body was examined by physicians. They found the skull covered with skin and hair. On the right side, it was seen that there was skin and hair that was covering the skull and the head. The face was desiccated and dark with an opening on the right side, which was earlier supposedly a bruise that was caused in Malacca when he was buried there. The abdominal walls were desiccated and a bit dark. There were no intestines at this point of time. The feet were desiccated. The fifth and the fourth toes of the right foot were missing, is what was reported. In 1878, the public health officers were also present during the opening of the coffin. They examined the body and found it to be in a good condition. In 1890, the body was not examined by physicians, neither in 1900. But in 1900, it was only mentioned that it was observed that the venerable body of the saint had not suffered any noticeable change since the time it was closed in 1891. In 1910, the body was examined by physicians who said that the body was in such a state and condition that it would be suitable for exposition and to be venerated.
On August 12, 1923, the body was examined by Dr. Francisco Antonio Vulfango da Silva, the Director of Health Services. He examined only the parts that were not covered. The general impression, according to him, was that the body was desiccated and in some places the bones could be seen. The thighs could not be checked thoroughly, but they seemed to have been desiccated and still with some softness, is what he said.
On January 9th, 1932, the body was examined by physicians. Some bones and the skull could be seen at this point of time. The ears, especially the right one, was still well preserved, they stated. The body was examined on 23rd of June 1951 by Dr. Antonio Luis de Souza Sobrinho, who was the Director of Health Services, and Dr. João Manuel Pacheco de Figueiredo, the Director of Medical School. Both uncovered and covered parts of the body were examined during this time. The last known exam was conducted through the glass case and not by removing the body out of the glass. That was done by Dr. João Manuel Pacheco de Figueiredo, the Dean of the Faculdade da Medica de Goa, and Dr. Pedro de Ataide.
Here are some little known facts about Saint Francis Xavier, which you might have heard and a bit more. His relics are also present in many places around the world, like for example in the Church of Gesù in Rome, Italy, which has the right forearm of the saint, which he used to bless and baptize thousands of converts, is preserved in the Mother Church of the Society of Jesus. Then at Seville in Spain, a relic of the saint said to be a part of his hand is kept in the Jesuit Church of San Francisco Xavier. Then at Macau in China, a relic believed to be a part of one of his bones is held at St. Joseph Seminary and Church in Macau. Smaller relics, such as fragments of bone or pieces of his garment, are distributed in churches and Jesuit institutions across the world, including places like Japan, Portugal, and the Philippines. These relics are usually kept in reliquaries and displayed for veneration during special occasions or feast days. He passed away at a tender age of 46 on the island of Sichuan, off the coast of China. This was preceded by a brief illness exacerbated by physical exhaustion and fever. All this happened as he was waiting to gain entry into mainland China to continue his phenomenal missionary work. Talking about his education, he was a bright student, recognized for his intellect, and earned his bachelor's in arts from the College of Saint-Barbe in Paris. Later on, he went on to complete his Master of Arts degree focused on liberal arts, which included subjects such as philosophy, classical languages, and rhetoric. It was at the University of Paris where he met Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of Society of Jesus, who basically convinced him to join the group and be a part of the missionary work. So technically speaking, Saint Francis Xavier was a co-founder of the Society of Jesus. As a missionary, Saint Francis Xavier traveled about 80,000 kilometers between 1541 and 1552, covering India, Malaysia, Spice Islands, and Japan, all without the convenience of modern transportation. Saint Francis Xavier was the first Jesuit missionary to step outside Europe, which set the stage for global Jesuit missionary work that continues to this day. He began his missionary life at the age of 35, which went on for 11 years, culminating at his death at 46. He was canonized as a saint on March 12, 1622, alongside Saint Ignatius of Loyola and Saint Teresa of Avila. Xavier was fascinated with geography and maps. He was known to study them intently before planning his missionary routes. This helped him strategically plan his journeys. Francis was an enthusiastic letter writer too. He wrote over 150 letters detailing his journeys and experiences. His letters were so popular that they were read in European churches, bringing news from distant lands. The Saint Francis Xavier was a multi-sensory preacher. Sometimes he used bells, musical instruments, and even dramatizations to engage with the crowd, who couldn't understand his language or needed more attention-grabbing presentations. This made his sermons unique and lively. Sometimes to attract the attention of people who wouldn't come to his sermons, he would mimic the crowing of a rooster. Sure, he had a good sense of humor and used it effectively.
There has always been a fascination with relics of saints in the Catholic Church. Many individuals who sought to acquire these items believed that they served as a connection between the earthly realm and the divine, thereby bestowing various advantages upon their owners. Consequently, numerous people obtained fragments of the saint's body or garments. Additionally, those who held the body felt entitled to distribute relics as gifts. Can you believe that? Thus, several churches, chapels, and even homes in Goa and outside Goa own relics of Saint Francis Xavier. The Pereira Braganza house in Chandor owns the fingernail of the saint, which is said to have been gifted to a Jesuit priest from the family. Here, the relic is placed into a gilt silver monstrance reliquary which is studded with diamonds and is placed in an elaborate wooden oratory. The oratory in turn adorns the retable of the altar where it has been placed just below the statue of the patroness of their family chapel, that is Nossa Senhora de Piedade.
I am Alan Braganza Pereira, one of the grandson of the Braganza Pereira family. We are indeed honored and privileged to own the relic of Saint Francis Xavier, which is his fingernail that's placed inside our family chapel. As told down the generations, our ancestor was a Jesuit priest and so was Saint Francis Xavier. So it is believed that through the connection, the family managed to get the relic of Saint Francis Xavier's fingernail, which is placed inside the reliquary, which is gilded with gold and studded with diamonds, and in turn placed inside an oratory with angels besides them.
One can say with confidence that almost every devout family and follower of Saint Francis Xavier, both from Goa and outside, would definitely possess class 3 relics of the saint. One such family is the Andrads from Ambaji in Margao.
A few fragments of the old cloth lining the casket of Saint Francis Xavier are visible in a reliquary placed onto their family oratory table. The reliquary had been crafted in 2021 so as to house these precious relics.
The reliquary seen at the Casa Andrad has been crafted from rosewood following a Baroque theme and is inspired by ramaliettes crafted in the 18th century. The decorative motifs on this have been bordered using yellow ochre oil-based pigment. The central niche, shaped like a shield, is adorned with 6 floral motifs inspired by a kind of flower known as parijat, which is locally found in Goa and native to South Asia and Southeast Asia. The niche contains class 3 relics of Saint Francis Xavier, along with a paper strip bearing an inscription in Portuguese which states Fragmentos da urna de São Francisco Xavier, which translates to fragments of the casket of Saint Francis Xavier, which is the literal translation. Similar flowers also adorn the base of the reliquary. Along the front is a cast brass figure of Saint Francis Xavier, which is inspired by the image of the saint seen to the left side as one enters the Basilica of Bon Jesus in Old Goa. The 3-sided pedestal which he stands upon is also adorned with similar parijat flowers made in silver. The halo adorning the head of the saint, designed to look like radiating rays, and the cross that he holds has also been crafted in silver. On the reverse side of the reliquary is an inscription in Portuguese which translates in English as follows. It states, the fragments of Saint Francis Xavier's urn were rescued from the dust and which were thrown as trash in a dustbin during its restoration carried out in 2020-21. For me, these fragments meant as a blessing from Saint Francis Xavier, which is why I ordered this reliquary to be made to contain these class 3 relics of the saint. There is a hyphen and thus is the name Fraser Andrade.
The reliquary was commissioned by Fraser Andrade and was blessed by Reverend Father Avinash Rebello on Friday, April 16, 2021, at the Patriarchal Seminary situated in the south of Goa.
St. Francis Xavier was a missionary whose life and work spanned continents, languages, and cultures. A man of incredible faith who dedicated himself to spreading the gospel, journeying across distant lands to bring Christ's message to those who had never heard it. His humility, dedication, and service continue to inspire us, reminding us that true faith is a journey undertaken daily. Reflecting on this, I recall my childhood pilgrimages with my family to Old Goa. We would spend the day in prayer and veneration, united in faith. I was young and curious, eager to learn more about St. Francis Xavier, whose intercession brought us all together. Those experiences shaped my understanding of devotion and the power of faith to unify and strengthen families. This brings us to the tradition of walking pilgrimages in the honor of St. Francis Xavier. These journeys are not just physical, they are deeply spiritual, reflecting St. Francis Xavier's life of sacrifice and faith. Each step taken becomes an act of devotion, a prayer, and a way to connect with God. I see pilgrims embrace simplicity and reflection, drawing inspiration from St. Francis Xavier's legacy of prayer and penance. The decennial exposition of St. Francis Xavier's relics is a profound tradition that holds special significance. While exposition of his relics date back to 1782, the concept of holding them every 10 years is a 20th century practice, ensuring that new generations experience this spiritual treasure. Each exposition transforms Old Goa and Goa at large into a vibrant center of faith where thousands seek his intercession and find renewal in their spiritual lives. These pilgrimages remind us of the beauty of walking with God and one another. They are opportunities to reconnect with our faith, seek healing, and discover peace. As we walk, each step becomes a prayer, echoing the journeys of countless pilgrims before us and honoring the saint who gave his life to others. St. Francis Xavier once said, "It is impossible to find a saint who did not take the two P's seriously, prayer and penance." His words challenge us to nurture our faith with dedication and discipline, to share it with love and humility. Walking pilgrimages symbolize this shared journey, reflecting the Church's mission as a body of believers moving toward God. Let us honor St. Francis Xavier, not just with our words, but with our actions. As I experienced with my family, these journeys unite us in prayer and faith. May every step we take reflect our devotion, love, and gratitude for the legacy of this remarkable saint, St. Francis Xavier.
So I hope you have liked our episodes, our whole episode on different aspects of the saint. Hoping to get your feedback on our social media handles. So thank you and goodbye. Have a lovely day once again.